Hi everyone, I'm Carol Keller, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Illinois in the United States. And I have for you today two alternatives for this month's Paper Pumpkin kit, which is called 10 Years of Growth, because it is Paper Pumpkin's 10-year anniversary this month. So that's exciting. And what makes it even more exciting is that there's an extra stamp set that's included in the kit to help celebrate that 10-year anniversary. My alternatives will be using the stamp sets and finding ways to go kind of beyond the kit, because I think that's really important. Every month we get our kits and we make our cards, but we want to be able to use those stamps going forward. We don't want them to just be sitting collecting dust. So my alternatives have the stamps as the major focus of them. And one of the alternatives will actually make 4 cards at once. So I hope you like them. Let's get started. Here is a quick peek at the kit. There is a card alternative, and they give you directions for how to make it, which is also on the insert that comes with the kit itself, which I'll show you in a second. And then, of course, as always, a sneak peek to next month's kit called To Cherish Every Moment. So, and this gives you a good idea of the color scheme, so a little sneak peek for that. And then here is, of course, the flyer that comes that shows you how to make the cards as they were designed. And I double checked to make sure I had all of the components. And then here are some alternatives, and that's the one that was featured on that other flyer. Comes with a polished pink Stampin' spot, and then 2 stamp sets, and you can see I've mounted many of them, but some flowers and leaves and a pot. This is the extra stamp set and the word happy, and some other sentiments, lots of sentiments with this kit. And so we are going to have a lot of fun with it. So let's get started with the first card. Here's the first card that I designed today. And like I said, my objective this month really was to just use the stamps, because I feel like I don't want them to sit collecting dust. And if you wanted to make the cards as they come in the kit, you could do that and still make these alternatives to get more value for your money. When I looked at the components for the kit, there were not too many extras. Sometimes there are a lot, but in this kit there are not. So that's why I focused on the stamp set. So I'm starting with a basic white card base, even though it doesn't look like it from the front of the card. Certainly what I often do. And then I have cut a piece of soft succulent cardstock that's the same size as the card front, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2. And we're actually going to stamp on this and cut something out from the middle so we can make better use of the paper. So it's something I don't normally do, but I feel like I want to do more of. Just a good way to conserve a little bit of paper. You could also use a scrap if you don't want to do this. But we are going to grab soft succulent ink and stamp that word happy. Yeah, it's laying the right way. Give it some good ink, and I'm going to do it right in the middle, because we are going to fussy cut that out to use for the front, just like you see there. So I am going to cut that out and be right back. And when you cut it out, make sure that you puncture a point in the middle of the paper, not from the edges, because they will show. All right, be right back. All right, so now, like I said, I cut out the word happy from here. So I just rough cut it from the center, because no one will be the wiser. We're going to be covering that up. And then I basically just fussy cut around the word happy. So we'll be using that a little later. And I also use the Scalloped Contours dies to cut out 2 layers for the card. This is polished pink, and this one is in fresh Freesia. So we can put this on right away and actually attach this to our card. So we'll do that just to kind of get them out of the way. So I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue. And I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal to attach this one. So you can see that no one will be the wiser then about the fact that we cut out and use that section in the middle. We're going to start with that beautiful bouquet of flowers, and we're going to stamp it in Memento Black. Lay some good ink down there, get good coverage and a good crisp image. And we're just going to center it on that piece of fresh Freesia that we die cut. And then before I clean it off, I'm actually going to stamp it on the masking paper. And then, because we don't need as crisp an image, we're just going to fussy cut around it. And I recommend that you cut very, very close to the image edges, which I will show you in a minute because I've already cut it out. So I'll show you what it looks like. And I will tell you it's very delicate. You can see I've got it in several pieces. And that's because the leaves are very delicate and I just kind of used too much. I was taking some of the sticky off the back so that it's not quite so sticky with my fingers, and I tugged at that, and then when I did one card I pulled this off. So my advice is cut it very close to the edges of the leaves because that's going to help when we do our masking and stamp over it, but also just be super careful when you're picking it up because it is delicate because those leaves are so cut so close to the edge and just from the way the stamp is. So I'm going to lay this down over what we've already stamped as carefully as I can. Whoops. Making sure that it's right where I stamped because that's really key to doing the masking. And then we've got this one over here and the rest of the flower here. And it doesn't have to be perfectly all laid down because when you stamp it'll press it down. Actually, and I'm going to move this just a little bit, I think, very carefully to get it more in that image. Okay, yeah, that's better. All right, so I'm going to grab my soft succulent ink, and I've got the stamp, one of the stamps from the set. And we're going to ink it up very carefully because what I did find, I messed one up because I pressed too hard and there was stray ink in between some of those leaves. And I pressed really hard, which you really want to do when you're masking, and I got stray ink on there. So keep that in mind. You want to really be careful that ink is only on the part of the stamp that you want the image to transfer from. And so I'm just lining up the stem with the bottom. We're going to give it a good press, like I said, because that's an extra layer, that mask. And so you want to, the harder you press, the more those images really are kind of right next to each other. Then we're going to do one here, and we're going to do that one a little higher. And then just a little bit of the top peeking out over here. So now we're going to take that mask off. And like I said, I'm going to do it carefully so that I can hopefully use it again. And then you can see, like right here, the image just didn't transfer quite well enough. And I can even come in with my soft succulent marker, either my classic Stampin' marker or my blends, but since I have my blends handy, and I'm gonna help that along a little bit. But I'd say the rest looks good. And then I do have my blends because we're going to color it in. But while we have the ink, we're going to stamp birthday in the corner. Again, in that soft succulent. All right, so now we are going to stamp on the inside. So I have one of the larger leaf stamps. Sorry, I just want to make sure it's all on that block. And we're going to use that to accent the inside of the card. Again, trying to use all of our stamps, and they do all coordinate. Get some good color on there, and then lay it down. And you do want to do this before you finish the card because we are going to be using dimensionals on the other side, and you want to make sure that you have a flat, even surface to stamp on. So while we have it open, we're going to switch inks, because that's all we need the soft succulent for. And we're going to bring in polished pink. We're going to stamp the sentiment on the inside. To an Incredible Woman. So the inside is done. And then I'm going to get a scrap of polished pink. So I literally have just an old little scrap. And I'm going to grab that stamp in the set. That's the pot. And we're going to stamp the outline in polished pink. And there's also a little accent stamp that we're going to use to decorate the top of the pot. Just like that. And then I'm going to cut this out and be right back. Now that we've got the rest done, we're going to color with our blends. So I've got my dark polished pink, and I'm just going to use that for some of that flower accents. And actually, I am going to use the thicker side because I want to lay some color over that black. So otherwise, it doesn't show if you use the thin one. And we're going to call this a little bud instead of a leaf. I'm not sure which it is, but I like the idea that it's a bud on the stem. And then of course the main flower, I'm just laying down a little bit more color, a little bit of the dark. Now I'm going to bring in my light polished pink and just color it in, going right over those areas where I use the dark polished pink because I like the way that blends them together. I'm going to do the rest of this and be right back. And I ended up adding these two as buds. You could do it either way, buds or leaves, but I just wanted to give a little more polished pink in there. And then I'm using soft succulent and doing the same thing with the dark, and actually with the writing tip, I'm just going to go over, I think probably that's it. I'm going to use my light soft succulent for most of it, but I'm still going to use the finer tips since some of these leaves are small. I'm going to kind of go over that one again and just color in all the leaves. So I'm going to do that and be right back. All right, so I have finished coloring, and I did add the dark soft succulent here to give some more detail to where it didn't stamp completely. And you can see it is a little bit different. I made these buds and I didn't do it on the first card, so I do like that extra pop of the polished pink. And so now we will finish assembly. So this is going to go on with some Stampin' Seal right across here. I probably should have moved that birthday down a little bit, but I think it's okay. And then we're going to put this on again with seal right on the front. And so the background colors of polished pink and soft succulent bring out the colors in the front. And then this we're going to put on with some mini dimensionals. So, and the minis work best. Got a nice new pack here, because they are narrow, the places where we've cut. So I've put them at each end, but also a couple in the middle because we want that to be held up too. Maybe one more right here. And then we'll take the papers off. And then I think I'm going to tilt it, not quite so much, maybe like this. So more of those flowers show a little bit. And of course, our card would not be complete without some bling. So I've got the very end of a package of brushed brass butterflies, but I also have a new package at the ready because we like our odd numbers. So I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool, and we'll put these two butterflies on, maybe up more toward the top. And then a brand new package. So I did use the larger ones of the two sizes, so I'm going to continue that. And we'll put one more maybe over here. And so that is it. Card number 1 is complete. And on the envelope, I did not show you, but I would stamp the same stamp that we used on the inside on the front left side of that, of just a plain envelope, presuming that you use the other envelopes that come with the kit with the cards that you made, but you could use those as well, and I still would stamp that image on the front. So that is card number 1. I'll be back with card number 2. So here are the cards I designed as my second alternative, and the reason that there are 4 is that I have designed them from one 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and I'll show you just how I did that. I'm also going to explain to you a little later on how I turned into a boo-boo into a card, so you'll see that too. So I am only, well, let me show you the process. I'm going to move these aside so that I can show you the process. So like I said, I started with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, and I'm just stamping in the middle, basically, with several stamps from the kit. So I started with the biggest one, the bouquet. And I'm going to use my Memento Black ink pad for that. Ink it up, make sure I've got good ink on there to get a good crisp image, because that is important. And honestly, you could measure and pinpoint the center of the cardstock. If you're really a perfectionist, go for it, do that. For me, I'm not doing that. I'm just eyeballing about where the center is because it doesn't matter to me. But like I said, if it matters to you, just pinpoint that center and then work around that. So I'm going to do this 4 times, once in each quadrant. So now that I have this, I need to bring my mask back in again. And so I've got that second mask that I stamped for the last card. And I know that it's probably going to tear, but I'm going to do my best to try to keep it in as few pieces as possible. And hopefully I can do that. We shall see. There are a lot of delicate edges. So I know that, like I said before, I can still use it even if it comes apart a little bit. So yes, right there, that's where I was worried about. So I've got 2 pieces. So what I'm going to do is lay them on each section in turn and then stamp. All right, so I'm going to take another stamp from the set, the next biggest one, and I'm going to stamp that in Coastal Cabana. Make sure I've got good ink. And I'm going to kind of do it between the 2 sets of flowers. And I actually did more on the last one, so maybe I'll try that. Let's see. Yeah, I think I did it more this way, over them. And so I'm going to do that all the way around. But before I take that mask off, I'm going to basically mask, you know, 1 flower at a time and do all the stamping around that flower. So I'm going to move Coastal Cabana out of the way. This time I'm going to bring in Orchid Oasis because I'm going to use the same colors but in a slightly different color scheme. So I have another stamp from the set. And I'm going to stamp here. And here. And then the idea is that I'm going to lift the mask off and then stamp all the way around on each of the flowers. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. All right, so here we have all the stamping done and the mask taken off. And I will say you want to make sure you get every little piece off. And I used 1 mask, and by the end there were places that weren't covered. You can see a little bit. And it is actually hard to see because of the fact that there's so much stamping going on. It might be easier to color it first just so you can see better where you're coloring, but I think I will be fine. So I'm going to jump right in with that. I am using my blends. So I've got my Bermuda Bay blend since there isn't a Coastal Cabana one. And then instead of, I used my Orchid Oasis on the first batch of cards, I'm going to use Polished Pink on this one. And so I've got those. And basically all I'm doing, I'll start with the flowers and I'll do one to show you, or at least part of one, is I'm taking the brush end and I'm going over the dark lines and dots in the flower so that it will provide some contrast. And I ended up making these, like I said before, into buds because I liked that idea. So you just go all the way around until all the flowers have been given some definition. And then I'm going to take my light polished pink and fill in the rest. And I'll do that until all the flowers and flower buds have been colored. Just color that last one so I don't forget. And then I'm going to come back in with the Bermuda Bay. I think I'll use the light since it's closer to Coastal Cabana, because with the leaves there isn't really that much. Well, I missed a bud there, but with the leaves there isn't that much. I think there's only one leaf that has some definition to it, so I'm just basically going to color them in. And you'll see too in some places where there were some stray ink, because the mask didn't cover completely by the end, this will help cover that up. So I am going to finish coloring all 4 of them and be right back. All right, so now I have all 4 of them colored, and we're going to cut them out. And I know I don't have them completely centered, so I know that I need, on this side, I need at 5 1/4 inches. So I think that's what I'll do. Rather than putting it at 5 1/2, I'll put it at 5 1/4. So you can always adjust to, so that it's more centered. And then we're going to see what it looks like. We need 4 inches, and right now it's at 4 1/4. So I'm going to go with that. And then we're going to cut it down. And so I'm taking off from the white. I want a piece that is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. So 4 inches this way, because I don't want to lose any of that wonderful color. And then I believe it is already at 5 1/4, and it is. So that is the section that we'll use, but I would do the same thing obviously with these, but I'm going to move them aside for now so that we can get to the next part. And I am going to bring the card back that I'm going to replicate. So we're going to use it this way. And you can see with the different, I just wanted to show you with the different color combinations what it looked like. I used, like I said, Polished Pink, Orchid Oasis, and Coastal Cabana. And then for the blends, well, Polished Pink, like I said, and Bermuda Bay. And I use those colors because they were the ones that coordinate with the kit. And so I just chose those. But the nice thing when you're using the stamps is you can use any color combination you would like. So I have also a basic white card base. We'll get that ready. And then I've already cut my coordinating pieces. Orchid Oasis, same size as the card front, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then Coastal Cabana, which is 4 1/8, 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Yes. I believe that is correct. And so that they layer. And I really wanted to use the 2 colors, but I really wanted most of my stamping to be included on the card too. So we will put this on with multi-purpose liquid glue. And we'll put this on with Stampin' Seal. And then I wanted to, when I saw the gold paper that came with the kit, which here it is, I really wanted to find a way to use it. So that's what I used to make this. And I'm going to show you how I did it. This one did not come out as well. This was the first one I did. And all I did was put adhesive sheets right on the back of this paper. But I was worried it would be too thin, and it was. When it came time to spread it, it kind of got goofed up over here. It did pretty well, but I knew it could be better. So when I did this card, I put some cardstock on the back, and that worked so much better. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did. All right, so here is how we work with this wonderful gold paper. So I cut a section that I know is going to be big enough to make that rectangle. And I'm taking my adhesive sheets, and I like to cut mine into strips because I find that it works better. So I think we'll use it this way. I do recommend using these end to end, edge to edge, I guess. So that's what we will do, and I'll show you what I mean. I left a space in the middle the first time I did it, and it was a little bit more awkward. So I'm going to put them right next to each other, or pretty close, and then grab my snips. And now I've got my deckled rectangles, and I'm taking the 2 largest ones, and let's make sure. Yeah, I think that will work pretty well. Yes. And so these are the ones we're going to use to cut out. But before we cut out, we're going to turn this over and smooth it out as best we can. It was pretty easy to smooth out most of the wrinkles. If you can't get all of them, that is all right too, because we're just using a little frame. They won't show that much, but just do your best. to smooth it out. Then, let me move these out of the way. We're going to peel off the backing so that we're just left with adhesive on the back of that gold foil. Ooh. And then we're going to take a sheet of basic white cardstock. So I have a scrap here, and it's big enough to make the cut with the deckled rectangle. So I'm going to lay that right over where I have adhesive. In fact, I think I'm going to do it this way. And so there will be some excess that falls off. Again, smooth it out as best you can. And then we've got adhesive up to here. So I know that I can lay my rectangle right there. So most of it will be smooth except for this one little section, and I don't think that's going to matter. Then you're going to lay your rectangles like this so that one is centered inside the other, and then run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I'm going to do that and be right back. So what I end up is this, and I'm going to take the scrap away. And I have my frame, see, and it looks good. And then with the deckling, it really doesn't matter if there's a little bit that's not quite smooth, but don't throw this piece away. We are going to use this in a minute. I'm going to put it aside right now, but we'll be using it in a minute. But now with the white on the back, if I wanted to, I could have put another whole sheet of adhesive again so I could peel this and stick it, but I did not do that. You certainly can. So I'm going to use, because I didn't do that, I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue and just put some little dots all around the edge. There we go. And then we're going to place it here. So there's just a little bit of an edge all the way around. And once you're happy with placement, press it down and let that glue catch. But isn't that pretty? I got the idea of using the deckled rectangles from that alternative that we saw at the beginning from the flyer. But don't you love it in the gold? And so now we can put that on the front of the card as well. If you are going to add ribbon, I should say that first. If you're going to add ribbon like I did on this card, you would do it now before you adhere it. In fact, maybe we will. Maybe we will put a little bit of ribbon. And I think I will use that same one that I used, the polished pink. We'll use the polished pink. So, like I said, now is the time. So I'm going to grab my glue dots. My objective was to show you as many different options of ways you could decorate these 4 cards as possible. So we will do yet another version. Move it up here, I think, and bring in my snips. And grab another glue dot. And then we're going to just put this on with some seal. And I always make sure that I use the seal over the ribbon to give it another layer of adhesive. And then we center this on the card as well. So now, like I said, we are going to use that scrap that came from the middle of that rectangle, and we're going to use it to punch our tag. So I've got my double oval punch. Oh, and I forgot to say too, oh my goodness, I forgot to say, I actually did not use those 2 layers like you saw them there, the Orchid Oasis and the Coastal Cabana. I actually punched out a bunch of shapes. You can see them here. I punched out some circles in different sizes and the ovals, And I did all that and used up this section before I actually placed it on the card. So I forgot to show you to do that, but please do that, because then you have so much more to work with and nobody will be the wiser, because those 2 layers hardly show at all. And they're on the card front and everything, you cannot tell. So, you know, that's what I did with this, and there's no way that you can tell that I did that, that the middle is gone. And even for the card where I used Happy, I did the same thing as on the first card. I took the Coastal Cabana and I actually punched a circle from one side and then stamped the Happy and cut that out from the other side. And so that was all hidden. So don't forget to do that. Use up everything underneath so that you don't waste anything. So for this one, I am going to punch from here our gold as our background, because I want to basically feature it for this card. And I used everything. I punched out other shapes so that I could use them on other cards as well. And let's see, which do we want to use? I think maybe, let's see, yes. Do we want to do Orchid Oasis maybe? It's not quite, got a little bit of extra there. Tuck it underneath. Do we want to do this? Do we want to do, whoops, Coastal Cabana? It's sticking to me. I'm going to get rid of these because I know I want to use the ovals. And I do have all 3 colors cut out. So let's bring in Polished Pink. And then kind of see. I do like that. The only issue is that it's darker, but I did use it on one of them. We used the darker and we stamped on that. So certainly you can. But I tend to go for the lighter ones. Maybe the Coastal Cabana. I think we'll go with the Coastal Cabana. Yeah. And we're going to stamp on that, on the smaller oval, with our sentiment, sending all our love. And I think, again, I will do that in the Orchid Oasis. I do like the darker ink on the lighter cardstock. And we just center that. Oh, and that's right, we need to stamp on the inside. So I did To an Incredible Woman. So I've got that stamp as well. So while we've got that Orchid Oasis, we'll stamp the inside. And I also wanted to use an accent on the inside. So I'm going to bring in Polished Pink. And picking up what I did on the outside. Actually, I did Orchid Oasis. Maybe we'll do the Coastal Cabana, because I want to use the same thing that I did on the outside and bring it to the inside. So I've got Coastal Cabana, and I'm going to grab that leaf stamp, and we'll bring that back in and ink it up. And maybe we'll stamp it here. And I probably would also use that on the envelope. But now all of our stamping is done. And we're almost finished with assembly. We just have to put on our tag. This one doesn't have the cardstock on the back. It just has the adhesive sheet. So I did find that if I start in the middle, if you start in the end, you're going to tear through it. And you will tear through it a little bit here, but nobody will see. If you can just get it started. I found that if I could get it started, I could peel it off from that way. Let's see if it'll work. Pull away just the adhesive. Yes. And once you get it started, then you can grab it and go all the way around. And you do have to be careful when you don't have the cardstock on the back, because it wants to curl. But I think it'll work. It's a little crooked. And once you put it down, you're really committed. So do know that if you don't have the cardstock on the back, but it works. It helps hold down the ribbon. And if you're careful, like I was, it definitely works. So now all we want to do is add some bling, and I definitely want some gold because of the, I have two different things with gold and we like our odd numbers. So I'm going to bring in those butterflies and put one of them, or you could put three, then you would still have odd numbers. But I'm going to take the bigger one, and I think we'll do it here this time. Then I do have my Iridescent Rhinestone Basics Jewels. And I have a sheet that I had already, that's almost finished, that just has the small one. So I'm just going to use those just because that's, I'd rather finish this up first. So again, just kind of laying some of them around. And that is our card all completed. So let me bring in the other ones again and I can show you what I did that was different that I haven't shown you. For this card, I actually had dropped this big leaf stamp right here. And so I couldn't use the whole sheet, but I didn't want to waste what I had already done because it was already colored and everything. So I just fussy cut around it and did it on Coastal Cabana backing. And then again on Whisper White, here is that leaf stamp on this side instead of here. And then To an Incredible Woman, and I added, this is a stamp from the set also. And these are the 2022-2024 in color matte decorative dots. So I used obviously the Orchid Oasis for this one. For this, like I said, I stamped the happy on my Coastal Cabana piece before I laid it down. Same thing with the circles. We have our wonderful 2-inch and 1 3/4 inch circle punches back. I think they're unavailable at the moment, but I know they will be back in stock soon. So I cut those again from those layers before I put them on the card. Obviously not this one, but the one underneath and the 2 layers here and here. And so for this one, I just used the butterflies and again with the gold trim. For the inside, I did Sending All Our Love because I did Happy Anniversary on the outside. There are lots of sentiments that you can use with happy anniversary, happy birthday. I think there's one that says happy to know you or something like that. Let's see. Happy Mother's Day. Oh, happy to call you friend. That's what I want to definitely use that one. Happy spring, happy Easter. So there are a lot of them, lots of sentiments with these two sets. And then for this one, I used 3 layers. I've never actually done that before. I did the 2 circles and then I did this punch, which is, that's the Label Me Lovely punch. And it gave me just enough extra color. So this one I did without bling. This is more simple stamping without any ribbon, without any other bling. So, and again, I did happy and birthday on the inside. So definitely, I think I've shown you everything. That was the one we did just now. Showed you this one. And that one. So yes, I think, and how about this one? So different things on the inside here. I use that stamp, again, picking it up from the outside. So lots of options for you once you make that 8.5 by 11 sheet. And it does take a little time, especially with the masking. I'm not gonna lie, it takes a little bit of time to set it all up and then color it in. But some of those things I like to do, the coloring and the fussy cutting, I like to do that while I'm watching television, so that it doesn't feel like it's taking so long, and then have everything ready to assemble. Those are the cards from the second idea that I had. And let me bring in the first card again, which is this one. So you can see how different they look, and just from using some different dies, the Scalloped Contours dies and the Deckled Rectangles, I really do like those, both of those sets of dies. And different colors. This one, I forgot to say this before, but I really wanted to focus on some of the in colors that will be retiring, presumably retiring, the Fresh Freesia and the Polished Pink, both of which I love, and the Soft Succulent. Those are all due to retire. We do know also, though, that there's a color refresh coming. We will find out on March 29th which colors will be retiring, which in colors will be coming back besides the 2 we already know, which are Pretty Peacock and Lost Lagoon. So it is possible that one of these might join, or more of them might join the main collection, but we don't know that yet. So if you do need cardstock or ink, and especially ink refills, now is your time to get them, or even the bling, because those will retire. But that was why I did that. And then this, like I said, I wanted to use the colors that coordinate with the kit, so you could use the envelopes if you wanted to with them as well. And if not, you have lots of cards. If you make the kit the way that it comes and make the 9 cards, you still can make many, many more cards using those stamps. So like I said, that was my objective today. I hope you like my alternatives. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate so much you watching every month, and let me know in the comments how you like the cards, and hopefully the tips will help you to make it easier, especially using the cardstock on the back of that gorgeous foil. I love to try to think outside the box. Normally I use the envelopes, as you know if you watched my videos before, but this time the only decoration was on the back flap. So I decided when I saw that gold paper, it spoke to me right away. So I hope you like them. Remember to check out my other videos. I have other cards, many other card videos, scrapbook pages, home decor items, tips, techniques, beginner videos. So hopefully there's something there that is of interest to you, and I will see you again soon. Take care, everyone. Happy stamping.